what we like.
Nice to be back. I'm delighted to introduce my friend Harry Smeltzer here for tonight. As tonight's part, this is his first time in Leesburg, first time here at Walsh. Harry lives in, and his family live in the Pittsburgh area. He's a real estate appraiser to pay the bills, but in real life, and the stuff that's important, he does a number of, is engaged in a number of Civil War activities, primarily known as really one of the top people with regard to the Battle First Manassas. He runs a delightful blog, a very well-run blog called Bull Runnings. If you're not familiar with it, the URL, the link is in your newsletter here. He's published in a number of Civil War periodicals. He has a regular column in Civil War Times called Collateral Damage, which takes a look at buildings and what has happened to various buildings during the war. This summer, he's going to be leading, along with Ed Bars and Ethan Refuse and a few other names that you will recognize, a major tour of the First Manassas battlefield as part of the Gettysburg College seminar that they do every year. He's also Vice President of Save the Historic Antietam Foundation, and with that, I would ask you to welcome Harry Smeltzer.
Yeah, about 40 people or so. Good crowd in here. Anybody here familiar with Bull Runnings? Ever visited before? You're the guy. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. What we're going to talk about tonight is tangentially related to the Battle of Bull Run. So maybe we use some sleight of hand to get some of you guys in here. But I think you're going to enjoy it, and everybody's going to learn at least one thing tonight. If anybody gets out of here and didn't learn one thing, please come and see me afterwards so I can think of something to tell you about myself that you didn't know before. So at least I could fulfill that promise. One of my problems, I'm not selling anything tonight. You know, how many times do you get a speaker in here who's not selling a book, right? So I don't have one because I can't concentrate on one thing long enough to finish it. My brain is like I'm always playing the Kevin Bacon game. You know the Kevin Bacon game?
6 degrees of separation.
6 degrees is Kevin Bacon, right. So people that write a book, when they see something that's a little bit interesting but they know doesn't have anything to do with their main object, they ignore it. But I can't. So I'm like a really, really bad hunting dog. They keep kicking to keep me on the path, and I'm not very good at it. But I find out some stuff that at least I think is really neat. And tonight is the result of one of those. But because of the very nature of it, it's never over. So every time I give this talk, it's a little bit different. If you have any questions while I'm doing the presentation, and normally they say don't ask any questions. If you have clarification questions, please ask them on this, because parts of this can get a little confusing. But if you have any of those questions that you usually ask a ranger or a battlefield guide out on the field to get them, you'll get me, but it's no big deal because it's just me. So it's like Bobby Riggs. If he had actually beaten Billie Jean King, it was a no-win situation for him. So it is for you too. So the guy that we're going to talk about tonight is Peter Conover Hains. Anybody here ever hear of him before? 1, 2, and he is a Yankee, and I am what's referred to as an unreconstructed Union man. You have any other unreconstructed Union men here? 1, 2, 3, 4 of you. Good, good. I was going to start, like our usual meetings and say, hi, I'm Harry, and I'm an unreconstructed Union man, and you could all say, hi, Harry. So this is the 3rd time I've given this talk. First was in North Carolina, where the whole room was filled with Yankees. I don't know why. I was in Pinehurst, so maybe that's an explanation. And then last week was at the Capitol Hill Civil War Roundtable, and they were all, let's say they were not unreconstructed Union men. So bear with me with that. Understand where I'm coming from, and we'll get started on Peter Conover Hains. The title of this is the first gun at Bull Run. And this is how I got you guys to come here thinking it was about Bull Run. And again, it is a little bit. This is the title of an article that Peter Conover Hains wrote later on in his life, and we'll we'll get to that and explain what that all means. But this is our guy right there. Peter Conover Hains was a member of the June graduating class of 1861 at the U.S. Military Academy. If you're familiar with the U.S. Military Academy, at that time it was a 5-year program. He was in the 4th year of his 5-year program and graduated early. Not because he was the genius. He graduated 19th of what eventually was 33 people, or the graduates, because of, you know, for some reason a lot of guys left. A lot of them did leave early. So 19th of 33, he's kind of right in the middle. But the reason was obvious why they were graduating these fellows early. So there was a May graduating class of 1861, and they graduated on time. That was their 5-year program. And then he was in the June class with some other fellows that I'll mention too that gained some notoriety or fame. Peter, his father was a shoemaker, Reuben, and his wife's name was Amanda, and they were from New Jersey, though he was born in Philadelphia, which isn't uncommon. Actually, my wife was living in New Jersey, was born in Philadelphia when she was born. Grace Kelly's doctor delivered her. Did you know that? This is my son Joe right here. This is the first time he's ever heard me do this. Anything like this. So he graduated 19th, and upon graduation was commissioned a 2nd and a 1st lieutenant, which was normal at that time. Prior to the war, you know, when graduates, newly minted graduates, usually were given a brevet rank. Does everybody know what a brevet is? If not, just raise your hand. I'll explain it to you. I try to explain everything. I don't want anybody embarrassed that they don't know what that is. But it's a temporary rank because there are only a certain number of troops that were approved by Congress, and only a certain number of officers for those. So they had to wait for what was called a billet, I guess. Is that the right word? Billet? Position was available for them. So until one of those opened up, they were brevets. And when he was commissioned in the artillery. Does everybody know how the hierarchy of graduates goes for the U.S. Military Academy back at this time? So the first thing people wanted to be was what? Engineers. Engineers, right? And that was the Corps of Engineers. Topical engineers came around later. You know, like George Meade kind of backed into the engineers. When he graduated, he was in the artillery too. Did you know that? He got into the engineers later, kind of in a weird way. And second was what? This is the one. That's the hard one. What?
Ordnance.
Ordnance. Oh. Okay, so that's a really smart artillery. Then artillery. So here he was, 19th, and getting into the artillery. Not too bad. Most years that wouldn't be for 19th guys. And then infantry, and then the cavalry. You had to be as smart as a horse. But understand one thing about these graduates. They're all what? What were they all?
Engineers.
They're all engineers. Some of them were better engineers than others, but they're all engineers. So before you say something about General so-and-so, he was an engineer. Well, they were all engineers. Some of them were terrible engineers, though. And the worst engineers were what? Cavalry. Obviously, right? Okay, so he graduates. He's a 2nd and a 1st lieutenant. He's assigned to the U.S. Artillery. The first thing that he does is he goes to Washington to train volunteer troops. Okay, that's what they almost all the graduates of the May and June class would go there, and they started drilling troops. And I'm going to leave that aside for a little while, and we'll move on to what happened to him after that. But before that, I want to show you this. Ancestry.com, any guys have that? It's wonderful. Did they buy Footnote, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, so now do I have a membership in Footnote?
No,
or I have
you just have to pay.
have to give them some more money, huh? Okay. They have all the files for these West Pointers that were not destroyed by fire. And there were a lot that were destroyed by fire. I think you go back to like 1846 or something and before that. But this is from Peter Hains's file. And this is a letter that he wrote trying to gain admission to the academy. Remember, he was born in 1840. And this was prior to when he entered the category. He graduated early in '61, so he should have graduated in '62. So that puts him in the starting class, I think, 1857. All right, does that make sense? So this is about 1856. He's about 16 years old. And check out that signature. At 16. I don't know what it means. I get an impression of what I think it means is that he's not lacking in self-esteem. Has anybody ever seen Roberto Clemente's signature? Have you ever seen it? It's very distinctive. And if you knew anything about Roberto Clemente, he was not lacking in self-esteem either. But you just wonder how long it took to write that. But I just was struck by that when I saw it and thought, maybe this helps explain some of the stuff that comes later. Are there any descendants of Peter Conover Hains? Not that I have anything bad to say about him. I just wonder, are there any? Because I'll tell you what, this was some stuff that was very hard to come up with. Very little written on Hains outside of, everyone know who Heitman is? Or Column, George Washington Column. Bullet point biographies. Okay, very little about him other than that, and his West Point necrology, which is a kind of a fawning obituary that's written by friends after, and then when he died, there weren't a lot of his friends left. But it's very general and not ever critical biography. All right, so in 1862, he's with the Horse Artillery on the peninsula. And these are a set of very famous photographs taken by a fellow named Gibson. I don't remember his first name. But I always get confused because Gibson also was, I think he was commander of either one of the batteries, or was he commander of the whole 2nd U.S.? I can't remember. One of the battery commanders. I think he's in there somewhere. But this is a real famous photo. You see it very often reproduced. This is just from the Library of Congress website. And there's some big names in there. This is John Tidball. You've heard of John C. Tidball right there. And this is a fellow by the name of Pennington. And then these two remained with the Horse Artillery. He was in command, I think, of the whole Horse Artillery Brigade at Gettysburg, Tidball. This is the son of Ohio Governor Denison. But our guy's right there. That's Peter Hains right there. There's probably some other people here. If there are any artillery geeks here tonight, are there any? Greg, are there any here? By the way, you have a really good resource for artillery here in your. If you didn't already know, you probably do. But whenever I have questions on artillery, I always go straight to Craig. So that's him right there, and here's a close-up of him. Still looks pretty young. Okay, so he is. Let's see, he was born in July of, so he's 21 here. He's coming up on 22. In July at Malvern Hill, he'll be Malvern Hill was July 4th, right?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
First. So he's still at Malvern Hill, just 21 years old. And he's trying to cover it up a little bit. That beard. And I think that beard grew out a little bit better later on, but there's very, very few photographs of Hains. Except for this one. They just all switched places. Chinese fire drill, and then he took another photo. Pennington's in Haines's place, and here's Hains down here. And he's got one glove on, and one off. There, he's not wearing. I zoomed in on that, and this is a bare hand holding his sword. And he's got that kind of gauntlet or whatever you call that on. Okay, so he was in Battery M, 2nd U.S. In the Horse Artillery.